In the previous video, I created a linked list of places to visit, ordering that list by how close the place was to Sydney. Now, I'll create the interactive part of our program with the menu items shown below. I'll use a scanner to get input from the user and use a list iterator to move back and forth through the itinerary. First, I want a method to print these menu options. I'll add a new method called printMenu, make it private and static, and add that before the closing bracket of the main class. I'm going to start typing this, then just paste that menu I showed you, and once I have the triple quotes that start a text block. This code is demonstrating that you can pass a text block directly to a print statement. Right now it's an empty block. What's nice about using a text block is you can just copy that data I showed you and paste it just the way it was on the slide. You've seen me do something similar before. I'll open up challengemenu.txt from the resources section of this video and then paste it in. Remember, I have to keep the first 3 double quotes on a separate line from the rest of the text block. For the last 3 double quotes, you don't have to do that, though I'm doing that here. This adds a new line after this text, and I don't actually want that. I'm going to change this slightly, removing the extra line, and have the triple quotes right after quit. Okay, so there's the print menu method. I'll now go back to the main method and set up the scanner and a few other local variables. var iterator equals places to visit .list iterator. I'll create an instance of the scanner class. Next, I'll create 2 Boolean variables, quit loop and forward, and set them to false and true respectively. This time I'm using a list iterator. I'll print the menu and start the while loop. Invoke print menu. The while loop uses the quit loop variable. Print some instructions. I'll get a string from the scanner, converting it to a single character and to uppercase. Here I'm using one of the Boolean variables to determine whether we keep looping or not. This scanner.nextLine code means that the user can enter one letter or the whole word in all uppercase or mixed case, and our code can still figure out what they want to do. Moving on, I want to use a traditional switch statement to process each menu item. I'm going to start with the default label, add a switch for menu item. Note I am using an old style switch. This code sets quit loop to true, which will quit out of the loop next time it's checked at the top of the loop. Now I need more case labels for the various menu items. I'll start with F for forward, add case for forward. Confirm the user's choice and break. I'm going to copy and paste that case section, change the label to B, and the comment to say backwards. I want to paste that 2 more times first for label M and call the print menu statement. And then finally for label L, and this time I'll replace the println text with the places to visit list. Okay, I've set up the loop and it's time to test it. I'll test all options and enter my menu selections in lowercase. I'll start with F and can see the move forward text, and we'll now try B and can see the backwards text as well. L prints out the entire list of places, and M gives us the menu options again. And Q is quit, so now we've got the shell built out. Note that I didn't actually add Q as an option, it's just falling through to the default option, and that looks good. So now I want to print out the position of the first place at the start of the loop. I'll use notIterator.hasPrevious to test if we can move backwards. Print the next element. Set direction to forward. Here I am checking if the iterator.hasPrevious method returns false. This means we're at the start of the list. If that is the case, I print out the first element, the originating place, using the iterator.next method. I then set the forward variable to true because we can only go forward when this is the case. I'll copy that entire if statement and paste it below. I'll change hasPrevious to hasNext in the if condition. I'll change originating to final in the output string and call iterator.previous instead of iterator.next. And finally, I want to set the forward flag to false. For this code, if iterator.hasNext is false, this means we're at the end of the list. In that case, I print out the element just up from the cursor using the previous method. This is the final element in our list, or final place in our itinerary. I set forward to false because the only direction we can go in from this point is backwards, so forward is false in this case. We'll test this shortly. So the code added handles the first and last elements in the list. Now I have to add code to walk through the list backwards or forwards, depending on the direction, one place at a time. Hopefully you remember how to do this using the hasNext and next methods for moving forward. I'll use iterator.hasNext to see if we can move forward, print iterator.next, which also moves to the next list element, closing curly brace. When the user enters F or forward, I'll just get the next element in the list and print it when there is a next element, and I want to copy that if statement and paste it in the previous direction code. I'll change hasNext to hasPrevious in the if statement, and I'll change iterator.next to iterator.previous in the statement after that. With this code, when the user presses B, they get the previous element after I confirm there is a previous element using hasPrevious, and I then print that element out. Okay, now let's test this out. I'll enter the menu selections in uppercase this time. First, we see that the cursor, or iterator, is correctly starting at the originating place, Sydney. And if I press F once, I get Melbourne, our second place in the list, and I'll press F again, and now we get Brisbane, 917 kilometres from Sydney. Let's keep moving forward until we get to the end of the list. After Brisbane, we'll get Adelaide, then F, and we get Alice Springs. Another F gives us Perth, and one more, and we have Darwin. I'll know we're at the end of the list when we see final Darwin printed out. Now I'll test going backwards. Using B, I get Perth, then Alice Springs. And I'll select L next so we can confirm that these cities are being shown as expected. And we get confirmation that Darwin is last, and before that Perth, and before that Alice Springs. Okay, so what happens if we now reverse directions from where we are? Hopefully you'll remember what's going to happen and won't be surprised. I'll enter F here, and now you'll see that Alice Springs has been repeated. Do you remember why? Let's pull up a slide, similar to one we saw in the last video. Here I show the 3B or back menu items, each calling the previous method. This leaves our cursor position shown as an orange arrow, positioned between Adelaide and Alice Springs. When we decided to go forward, we called the next method from this cursor position, and that gave us Alice Springs. When we change directions, we have to compensate for the cursor being ahead of where we want it to be. So we have to make the call either next or previous twice. The first time to adjust the cursor, and the second time to get the element. Let me add that code in. First, for going forward, case label F. If not forward. Forward equals true. Using iterator.hasNext to see if we can move forward. Invoke iterator.next if we can. I know the forward flag is set to true when we start at the top of the cursor, or before the first element in the list. I set the forward flag to false if we're at the end of the cursor or beyond the last element in the list. If forward is false, this means we're moving backwards. In this code, I set the forward flag to true if it's false, because the user pressed F to move forward. With this next if statement, we check to see if there really is a next element. If there is, we want to adjust the cursor, moving it forward one extra spot. All of this code is for when we reverse directions from backwards to forwards. Now, we have to do the same from forwards to backwards. So I'm going to copy those 6 lines of code and paste them after the first statement in the B case section. I will remove the not from the if condition and change forward to false because we'll be going backwards at this point. Then I want to change hasNext to hasPrevious, then iterator.next to iterator.previous. This is the same kind of thing as it was for forwards. If the forward flag was true, this means we're reversing our direction and moving backwards. So I set the forward flag to false. And I need to adjust our cursor with an extra call to the previous method, first testing if hasPrevious is true. Let's test this out. I'll start by listing our itinerary with an L, then move forward with F, gives us Melbourne, another F gives us Brisbane, then Adelaide, then Alice Springs. And now we want to test reversing direction, so I'll enter a B. This gives us Adelaide, which is exactly the behaviour we want, because we were at Alice Springs, so moving backwards should give us Adelaide. And pressing B again, we get Brisbane. Now I'll reverse direction, again for good measure, and press F, and we've got Adelaide. We're not seeing Brisbane twice when we reverse directions because of that code we just added to handle direction changes. I've tested reversing in both directions and got the right results both times, so let's enter Q and quit our application. And that's the end of the challenge. I hope you enjoyed that and that it helped you understand the list iterator and the linked list a little bit better. In the next video, I'm going to take another look at wrapper classes because they become more important when we use lists. I'll see you in that next video.